In this episode, I'm going to silent a silent reflux. I am very excited to share with you once again another amazing technique. In the previous 12 episodes, I have shared with you my techniques which I developed to combat heartburn, acid regurgitation and acid reflux. Every technique that I do has changed my quality of life and are continuing to change my life. This one is also no different. A silent reflux is a reflux that is silent. That's why it's called a silent reflux. This sounds like a mouthful, and literally it can be. What a definition. A silent reflux is also known as a laryngopharyngeal reflux. A silent reflux is a condition in which the stomach content or stomach acids flows back up the esophagus and laryngopharynx, the swallowing tube, into the oropharynx, the throat, and flows down into the larynx, the voice box. Acid fluids can also flow back up into the mouth and area surrounding the uvula. Laryngopharyngeal reflux is also similarly to another condition called gastroesophageal reflux disease, or GERD. Gastroesophageal reflux disease, or GERD, is caused by continually or frequent acid fluids enters up the esophagus, laryngopharynx and oropharynx. It is mostly contained within the esophagus. This occurs when the lower esophageal sphincter relaxes to allow acid up into the esophagus, or when the lower esophageal sphincter is defective and does not seal properly. The lower esophageal sphincter is the lower valve of the esophagus to prevent fluid into the esophagus. Gastroesophageal reflux disease is another silent killer. You are not always aware of the stomach acid that enter your esophagus. This happens easier when lying down, when the acid foods pushed past the lower esophageal sphincter and into the esophagus. The inner walls of the esophagus is less protected than the walls of the stomach against the stomach acid. Over time, the acid penetrates the protective walls of the esophagus and penetrates the inner, less protective layer. When this happens, you will have increased burning and can lead to esophagus cancer. This happened to me. On 23rd May 2012, I received a total esophagectomy procedure or gastric pull-up. A total esophagectomy is the removal of the esophagus. I suffered from a 45.4 millimeter carcinoma in the upper part of my esophagus. A carcinoma originates in the skin or the tissue that covers the surface of internal organs and glands. Carcinomas are the most common cancers and usually form into solid tumors. Can you be cured from a condition of a silent reflux? This may even help you. Here is a few tips which I want to share with you. A silent reflux, I called a silent danger. I found that this is in many cases the most difficult to counter because it has the tendency to operate under the radar, sneaks almost unnoticed. Most times it will catch you totally by surprise. Many cases do not require medical care. It is very important to know that silent refluxes can be managed with lifestyle changes. How can you do that? Allow me to share these few tips. These are the tips that I learned in a very short time. They are very vital to reduce silent refluxes and acid regurgitation and acid refluxes. First, I would recommend that you change your diet. This can be sometimes the most difficult to do. A high level of acid foods, foods with a high level of fat content, and very spicy foods enhance the condition of a reflux. According to experts, a healthy diet consists of 80% alkaline foods and of 20% acid foods. I can recommend this. This is by no means easy, but at least we can steer towards that goal. Prevent overeating. Eat smaller amounts and more regular meals. Avoid acid drinks and alcohol. Don't lie down or sleep with a full stomach. Try not to sleep on your stomach. When sleeping on your stomach, it is the easiest way by which acid can run into your oropharynx and down into your larynx. Elevate your head when sleeping. To lose weight may be an advantage, although being overweight is not the cause of a silent reflux. But it can certainly have an effect on the outcome of the reflux. These are tips you most probably already know, but they are very important to be re-emphasized. Acid reflux can be worse at night because of the lying down position. When lying down, it is easier for the stomach acid to enter into the esophagus. The gravity does not necessarily take the acid back down into the stomach, depending on your position. Before we continue, I would like to share with you a very vital principle that should be the foundation and the basis in every conversation. There is power in the tongue. You can speak death or you can speak life. We all know that is true. So choose to speak life. For years, I spoke death over me. For years, I spoke that I will have one day cancer inside my feeding tube. Years later, I was right. We all want to be right. We spent our entire life in training and gain experiences to be able to get to a place where we can call ourselves to be right. I wish I never said that. I regret every time I said that, but it was too late. Therefore, I urge you to choose life and not death. Speak life over yourself, your family, and your friends. When you want to change a behavior or a behavior condition, you first must get your mind right. You gotta speak life, you gotta think life, and you gotta live life. Don't claim that the condition as mine. This is my sickness. I suffer from and will continue to suffer from. I deserve this. I will die from this. This is going to cost my life. I don't think that I will survive. There is no cure. We are all guilty of doing that sometime in our lives. Nobody is excluded. Cancer or sickness is your enemy, not your friend. When you want to change a behavior, please don't make that behavior your enemy. Treat it as yourself, but use that behavior as basis to celebrate victory over by adopting a better or changed behavior. This is how I formulate a silent reflux. A silent reflux is a body behavior condition. I can already feel many doctors and therapists disagreeing with me. I will give you credit for disagreeing with me. You are welcome to disagree with me. And I agree that you are also correct. We know that some people only experience an occasional silent reflux. That can many times be cured by a lifestyle change. The more regular silent reflux and the more chronic silent reflux, these are the culprits that I am focusing on. I can have many silent refluxes over a short period of time, depending on what I've eaten at that time. I have the ability to stop any silent reflux or any reflux by the activation of one of my many techniques. I have the ability to force it back down and prevent it from returning back up. In the past, that would have been my first line of defense. I am not including stronger refluxes. The stronger refluxes you may be very much aware of. I am talking about the irritable refluxes that surprises you on arrival. I'm going to try again. I formulate a silent reflux as a behavior condition. Why do I say that? Because you can have conscious participation in the outcome of that silent reflux. I want to move away from a negative, irritable, and uncontrollable condition to a condition that may have a positive outcome. I want to change, if I may, this negative mindset into a positive mindset. Now, when you are willing to accept this as a possibility, you will allow yourself to explore the unknown. A silent reflux occurs when in a state of subconsciousness. You can be in a state of being conscious and also unaware of the silent reflux in process. You may only consciously experience the result of a silent reflux. How do you become consciously aware of a silent reflux? By training yourself to become at least consciously aware while awake. I have trained myself to be in a state of awareness when sleeping. I will wake up as soon as the reflux enters my feeding tube. You may ask, how is it possible for me to be able to do that? This is not easy, but I followed 3 simple steps. You can do that too, to follow those 3 steps, and they are: Step 1, training. Step 2, more training. And step 3, even more training. My body is trained to send signals to my brain to awake me as soon as the silent reflux starts to enter into my new esophagus. When that happens, I don't enter into a state of panic. I know exactly what the call was for. I enter into an immediate state of alertness that will give me enough time to stop or combat the reflux. I have trained my body to be proactive in protecting itself. This changed the entire status quo. What do I mean? The silent reflux appears when in a state of consciousness, a state of awareness. You are in full control to change the status of the condition by allowing the body to behave in correspondence to the trained patterns. This made possible by the will to change the mind, to have a new mindset which is downloaded in the brain, by which the involuntary autonomic nerve system is activated when the silent reflux, the stomach acid fluids, enters the feeding tube. This now sends signals to the part of the brain that are responsible for the voluntary action. This process also awakes me to voluntarily stop the silent reflux. The silent reflux become no longer a silent reflux, but rather another behavior addition that is taken care of within the ability of the body. I think that I've silenced a silent reflux. I hope that you are able to understand what I was explaining in these few sentences. I think that you are understanding from where I am coming from. Silent refluxes are normally small refluxes which deposits small amounts of acid into your oropharynx. The severe acid reflux you will be aware of. I can use my techniques to stop a reflux and then control the outcome of that reflux. I will normally have two options to deal with a stopped reflux. Every condition is sort of different to a degree. One, I can force the acid back with a greater force and to never return, or to release the pressure slowly and then force the acid down quite easily. Or two, I can, under controlled conditions, release the pressure without any adverse effect. What do I mean by that? I will allow the pressure to be released under a controlled condition, but prevent the acid content to enter my oropharynx. The following step will be a normal swallowing action to allow the acid buildup in the laryngopharynx down into the stomach, safe and sound. I develop new techniques all the time. There are too much to be explored inside this amazing body that we all call ours. I personally have so little knowledge of this body of mine. I get very excited when I discovered something new for me in my personal capacity. For me, it is like finding gold on your own property. May I share with you a big secret that I have discovered. It is coming to you. Listen carefully. I believe every person must discover this. When you read about it or even know it, it is not enough. You have to discover it. For many of you, this statement makes no sense, but to some of you will make perfect sense. Man and woman are the greatest creation that the creator of the universe ever created. Not the earth, not the moon, not the stars and the sun. Nothing compares to me and you. That is a big deal, and that makes you and me very special. This elevates you and me above all creation and all living things. This exalts you and me into a position to celebrate. I celebrate my life every day, even when I was in pain and discomfort. Are you doing that, or are you too busy to complain? Don't be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Speak life. When you want to change anything, first get your mind right. Most of my previous techniques are very difficult to carry out without my personal assistance. I am convinced that some of you out there have tried to follow my techniques of how to close my laryngopharynx. I know that you have no or little success. Please send me a comment if you had any form of success. Remember, I asked you not to do it. This technique assists to combat a silent reflux. I developed to make my own life better. but to share with you a technique that is very easy to carry out. I believe that many of you will have good success. I feel it is very safe, and it is definitely much safer than the reflux itself. No reflux I consider as safe. Every reflux has its consequences. They all cause discomfort. If you have the ability to stop the reflux, you will become more confident to continue to practice more, to have even greater success. After the esophagectomy operation or gastric pull-up in 2012, when lowered my head and upper body, the stomach content would run out into my oropharynx, into my mouth, my nasopharynx, and sometimes down my larynx into my lungs. These were devastating moments and difficult to recover from. I had to be very alert and ready to activate my muscles to stop or prevent events in process. I have developed many techniques to combat all those conditions. Now that I've shared with you how important it is to get your mind right, before any change, let it be a behavior change. You have to be willing and eager to make a change. Nothing will change unless you agree that you want to change. Don't allow your behavior become an enemy. Rather embrace that behavior, and the outcome will be worth celebrating. In my next video, I will share with you this technique, how to combat a silent reflux. I trust that you will have fun doing it. I thank you for taking the time to watch this part of my testimony. I trust that you are a little more enlightened, and that you will also follow the next part of my testimony that is coming soon. I want to leave you with this promise. The Bible tells us about another promise in Psalm 91 and verse 15. When they call on me, I will answer. I will be with them in trouble. I will rescue and honor them. When we require the safety of God's presence, believe me, I do. We know that when we call upon the Lord, He will answer, because He promised. Scripture tells us that He holds everything in His hand. We serve a mighty God. Please don't downsize Jesus. He created all things by Himself and for Himself. He created you and me for Himself. Do we believe that? Please do. Therefore, may God bless you all. Till we meet again, and goodbye.